What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and break down what's going on with the economic calendar thus far. What you should be watching for as time progresses, and some very important levels to be watching for on the charts, as we have the FOMC meeting coming out for today. But before I break anything down, all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks. The offer ends very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's going on with the market. Looking at SPY, we're actually still testing this yellow trend line right over here. This was the previous support which SPY was ping-ponging off of, and we're still trying to hold this. So I'll be breaking down how this can actually pan out and whether or not SPY is going to attempt to bounce, in my opinion. But first, let's talk about some data and then the FOMC meeting. So for today, there's actually not much data coming out. At 9:45 a.m., we have the Chicago PMI, so watch for some volatility 15 minutes after market open. And then besides that, we have the FOMC meeting coming up later on. At 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the interest rate hike decision. The market is expecting the Fed to basically keep rates the same. As you can see right here, there's a 97.9% chance we get just basically a skip slash pause. They don't change the rates. So that's most likely what's going to happen, and the market's going to react to that. Then at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the press conference with Jerome Powell. That's when Jerome Powell is going to give a speech. That's going to cause a big move in the markets, and we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. Now, when it comes to news affecting the markets, we have earnings that have come out. We had Boeing, just a couple of others. Everything is actually kind of minor. Boeing basically had more narrow losses than expected, but it held off on the 2024 guidance as the 737 MAX 9 crisis is still looming. So this is part of why Boeing is actually up just a bit. Their EPS, their loss was not as bad as expected, and the revenue ended up being a beat, so not bad for them. And we're not too sure about guidance as they kind of held off on that. There's more details about their earnings right over here. So that's pretty much it for now. When it comes to other pieces of news affecting the markets, just want to call out. We're waiting for the Fed, basically. This is what the headlines are talking about. There's a 97% probability the Fed will leave rates unchanged, and that's what I believe will be the case. What else is going up on is both Alphabet and Microsoft saw their stocks sell off and extended trading on Tuesday. Alphabet made the biggest drop, especially after its earnings. I was talking about the ad revenue yesterday. Microsoft actually was not doing too bad overall, but there were some talks about some of the changes being made to their company and also their cloud services. So I'll be watching to see what happens to Microsoft. Still not didn't drop that much, so I'll just be waiting for that. Boeing had its more narrow than loss that was expected, basically. So not bad from Boeing. UPS is cutting about 12,000 jobs, according to their CEO. There's also some news about Elon Musk that came out. A Delaware judge voided Elon Musk's $56 billion Tesla compensation plan. That basically takes Tesla back to 2018 to come up with another compensation plan. So that's some big news. This actually caused Tesla to drop, so we'll be watching that carefully. That's it for the main headlines for today. Now let's just break down the charts. So from what I'm seeing, SPY is just barely holding the trend line, kind of below it. So it is possible we actually drop a little bit more. They try to grab some liquidity down here at this 488 to 487.5 area. Still a little bit of a drop before we see this thing rebound and try to push back up towards this 490 area. So my best prediction would be that SPY kind of, it could drop a little bit more before we see this thing reverse. I think it might drop just a tiny bit to grab liquidity right here, and they might start pushing it right back up into these higher levels. So watch resistance at 489. If we get above that, 490 is going to be our next target. And then once we approach the 490 area, we might just see a lot of sideways price action. I think that what's going to happen is we drop and then pump a little bit. Then we just see sideways choppy price action approaching the FOMC meeting. Typically, it's really boring. And then once the FOMC meeting starts, Jerome Powell is going to either pump the markets higher or cause us to get rug pulled. So that's my best prediction. Market drops a little bit more, and then we see another rally back to the upwards direction. And then Jerome Powell will take over. Whatever he says will affect the markets from there. For the QQQ, we actually dropped very hard. We saw this thing just barely hold 420. It is possible because we're currently at 421. So it's possible we come back down to 420 again. We chop around a bit. We'll see if this holds. If we fail to hold this, our next target is 418. But if we do hold it, look for a rebound back up. So this does kind of like resemble a reversal pattern right here. We have like a left shoulder here, a head, and maybe like a right shoulder forming. Might grab liquidity at 420, bounce, and start pushing back up into the 422 area. Maybe get very close to 422.5, maybe a little bit above that. Then start shopping sideways for some time. And then once Jerome Powell gives his speech, we'll be watching for this thing to either pump more or dump all the way back down. So look for a little drop, then a pump back up to the 422s or even higher than that. And then look for sideways price action. And then Jerome Powell is going to cause this thing to either pump or dump again. So it all depends on Powell and the FOMC meeting. We'll be waiting for that. For Tesla, this came down very hard to 182. We're currently at 186. Watch Tesla come down to about 184, in my opinion. I think it's going to drop again. But as long as we hold above 182, then we're going to be fine. So I think it might drop a little bit, trade sideways for some time, and then start pushing up higher into the higher 180s just temporarily for lots of sideways price action. And then I think that Tesla will basically react to the FOMC meeting. So we basically drop first, come back up, trade sideways, and then we either get launched back into the 190s or we get a rug pull back down towards 180. That's going to depend on what Jerome Powell says. That's my most, anticipated prediction. For Nvda, I'm seeing the same thing. Nvda looks like it's going to grab liquidity again right here, 610 or so. Bounce off that, push back up to 616. Trade sideways, and then we're going to be watching to see if we get a pump back into the 622 area, or do we get a rug pull back down to 602? That's going to depend on Jerome Powell. Watch this thing drop. It's going to drop a little bit more, then bounce, come back up, trade sideways, and watch and see what Jerome Powell and the Fed cause. That's going to be key for today. For Aapl dropped quite a bit. It might not drop too much here. It might actually attempt to rebound soon. So look for it to grab a little liquidity, then start pushing back up to 189 or so, and then just trade very sideways around the 188s, right? So a dollar above or below that in the 188s, I think we're just going to see sideways price action, and Apple's going to essentially just be stuck within this range. But for now, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. So I just wanted to thank you all so much for listening. Please have an absolutely spectacular rest of the day. And don't forget that we have the PMI reports 15 minutes after market opens to watch for volatility and then get ready for the FOMC meeting after that. Generally, as we approach the FOMC meeting, the market tends to be very sideways. I think the market might kind of dump first and kind of a little bit more. They could grab liquidity, then pump back up, make a recovery, then trade sideways for many hours before the FOMC meeting starts. That's what I'm basically seeing. A little more downside, then a pump back up, and sideways price action after that, approaching the meeting. With that being said, have a great day, remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys very soon in a couple of hours before the FOMC meeting starts. Thank you, and peace out.